Welcome in to Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears network production. Download the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon, to follow the team on the go. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, Bet Rivers, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
All I got to say is, wow, are we in for a show tonight? And the first look at the newest Bears starting tomorrow at Hallis Hall, 2 days of practice with the 2024 rookie class, 9 undrafteds, and I think nearly, 30 rookies and vets getting tryouts. So we'll discuss tonight at a special edition of Bears Weekly. We are welcomed and absorbed into the Waddle and Sylvie Show right here on ESPN 1000 at the Bears Radio Network. My name is Jeff Joniak with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. Jim Miller off tonight, but joining us, Bears Radio Network pregame host Mark Silverman, and with the Cubs dark today, Jesse Rogers pinch hitting for Tommy Waddle. Good evening, guys. How's everybody doing?
Very well said. Good evening to you guys.
This is exciting.
Are you ready for this? Are you ready for
Tom,
this?
how are you?
I'm doing good. You know, I think Sylvie also needs the introduction of the halftime host, and the first halftime host in the history of NFL broadcasting. And I was reading an article somewhere a couple weeks ago how they felt that was such a unique idea and how cool it was. And, it took me a couple weeks to kind of get used to, but standing in the back of the booth and listening to Sylvie take calls during halftime of NFL games, I tell you what, man, that is an incredible feat.
It'll be interesting to see as this team grows if the phone calls kind of peter out a little bit. Because, people call when they're upset more than when they're happy. But hopefully they continue. If they're up 35-0 at halftime, I hope people are calling up, celebrating that as well as sounding off if things go wrong.
Jeff, they better be calling with praises, right? I mean,
yes, exactly.
Like I want love. Like this is like someone said to me when you guys were doing the show after our show on draft night at the Bears official draft party, and there was someone in the VIP section as I was walking out of there, and they looked at me and they go, Sylvie. And this was after Rome and Caleb Williams was drafted. What are you guys going to talk about now? You spent months talking about this draft. And I paused and I looked at him and I said, wins. Right? I mean, that's what this is about. It's not about belly aching. It's not about complaining. It's about building a sustained winner here. And what Ryan Poles has been able to do is build a better roster. And now hopefully this leads to lots of wins and hopefully happier phone calls at halftime.
So, Sylvie, we talk about the halftime phone calls. We talk about your pregame show. So the first time you're sitting out there playoff weekend, I think that's going to be some of the most exciting radio that there's been here. And I don't know however many years that, they would have just a home field or even just a playoff situation like that be.
Oh, my goodness. Like to talk about a playoff game? Like, let's go. Like, I can't wait for something like that.
The anticipation, starting tomorrow is so cool. And I'm obviously you two, more than anyone, are going to be involved in this. Just everything Caleb and Adunze. Sorry,
Jesse.
Roma Adunze. Everything they do is for the first time, right? Yeah. First mini camp tomorrow. And then eventually first camp in general, then first game. And that's going to be cool for the city to sort of follow this thing from the beginning. And you guys will be right there, for every second of it.
Obviously, we've had first-round draft picks before at the quarterback position, but just watching what's been going on social media from just regular people, fans and podcasters and whatever you want, the build-up. I don't think we even understand yet just how much attention Caleb Williams is going to bring to the and for that matter, Roma Adunze. They're getting so much love nationally from every writer. In fact, the NFL.com, they came out with 11 wagons. Wagons. I'm saying things
Wangers.
I can't say. Yeah. Anyway, and the number one, it could be a team, but this is his projection about what is going to be the top topics. And the number one is the Bears. It's Caleb Williams. It's everything that's going on with the Bears. Everything else is either a coach or a player. And the Bears are getting a ton of attention. Yes, there's going to be a lot of expectations, and deservedly so. I mean, we went through the pain. Everybody went through the pain, from the coaching staff to the front office to players that are not even here anymore. And it's a significant thing. It is a significant thing. We'll start to roll it out tomorrow. Got to say thanks to our producers as well, Dan Brilli and Jordan Tredup. And in the ESPN studios, we got Meller, we got Aki, and we got our executive producer, Eric Ostrowski, as well. No guests tonight. I tried to get one more teammate, Sylvie and Tommy. I tried to get Jason McKee aboard. He goes, hey, I'm about to tee off. I'm down in Orlando golfing with the future Hall of Famer, Devin Hester. So how cool is that?
What's the countdown, Jeff, on the Canton game here? How many weeks away are we from our first kickoff of the season for Devin Hester getting inducted and the Bears taking on the Texans?
Hey, we're inside of 3 months. I mean, we're inside of 3 months. It's August 1st is the game, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, we're inside of 3 months. Can't wait. Hopefully, until that point, training camp will go as smooth as a uncrowded highway, so that the Bears can just hit the gas and pick up where they left off for the second half of last season and roll. That's my expectation. I think there will be some growing pains, obviously, with a Caleb Williams, a rookie quarterback. There always is. But I just think he's just built a little different, and that's what we keep hearing. How many people have you guys interviewed on Waddle and Sylvie or on ESPN that have just touched on that? The experts. Everybody's digging into his past. He's just built a little different, right?
Yeah, I love it. Some of the stuff that Albert Breer has written, I don't know if you read the Monday Morning Quarterback. It's great.
Yeah.
And like what I liked, to Jeff, and I didn't bring it up on Waddle and Sylvie today, but Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets, who is a hell of an NBA player. I love Jamal Murray. He's at big NBA Finals games. I hope one day we could be talking about Caleb Williams having big Super Bowl games, having big playoff games. So, admittedly, I'm talking about apples and oranges here, Jeff, where this is a very accomplished pro, has won championships, and has been there in the biggest moment. But something that was apparent to me from that article from Albert Breer that Ryan Poles talked about when he evaluated Caleb Williams was dealing with adversity. And what he analyzed with Caleb Williams was that Notre Dame game. And oftentimes we had fans call in, guys, what about the Notre Dame game? What about the Notre Dame game? I'm very disappointed with the way he played. That was a big red flag to me. And Poles took it that he liked what he saw from the Notre Dame game because you've got to see what a quarterback does when he deals with his adversity. And never was he checked out. He was always looking for answers. Never did he hang his head. Never did he choose somebody out in a bad way. And I bring up Jamal Murray because during that butt kicking that they took in game 2 to the Minnesota Timberwolves, he starts throwing stuff on the court. And then he doesn't get suspended. And then after the media comes to him and they want answers 2 days later, instead of being accountable, he had a chance to say, I'm sorry. I'm glad the league didn't suspend me. I made a really, really big mistake. As a champion, you think a guy would do something like this. He never did. And so I thought it was very interesting that here's this battle-tested champion who wouldn't even be accountable, wouldn't even deal with adversity in the same way, where I draw this with Caleb Williams on one of the selling points that Ryan Poles talked about that they liked about him was the way he dealt with adversity.
Right. Body language is going to say a lot. How many times have we seen over the course of our time a quarterback who sits by himself after a couple of rough series instead of working on answers with his teammates? Don't want to see that. And the other aspect of it is this particular individual has been thinking about this since he was 10 years old. So he has been engineered. He engineered himself. He's had every aspect put before him, the proper training, the proper teaching, the proper footwork, and then the competitive spirit's got to come. That's got to be organic. And I think we all see it. And he's going to be, and I can only say this from watching him. Just from watching him at the Combine, we touched on this on your show a couple weeks back. I followed him around after his initial interview at the podium, and he had to do another 10, and just what he was like. Hey, one time at the Combine, I went up to Kyler Murray right after, and he wanted no part of me. I just wanted to say hello because he lived next door to my daughter Kelly at Oklahoma, and she was the girl in the white truck that was dropped off at Oklahoma's exercise facility every morning because she was working in sports science there, and then his face lit up. But, are you that guy? No. You can't be that guy. You're the CEO of this football team in one of the greatest football towns in America, the greatest football town in America, and this town is hungry, and he knows it. He knows how hungry it is, and this has nothing to do, by the way, with what my predictions may be about his performance on the field, what he's going to be like in the locker room. All that's going to work itself out. But I appreciate a guy who also embraces the history of the game. Too often now with young players, they don't know who anybody is. They walk in that building at Hallis Hall now. They purposely have that entrance with all the names of the great players. It's great. They pound it in. I want them to embrace the history, and I think he embraces the history.
It's funny. I wrote an article about Bryce Harper recently, and when he joined the Philadelphia Phillies, he dove into that franchise and the history of the franchise.
And look how much they love him now.
Yeah, right. He's Mr. Philadelphia. So if Caleb has that aspect to his personality, that is huge. That is a huge way to endear yourself to a fan base.
I love. Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
Good. No, the thing about it is a baseball locker room and what they need in order to show the reflection of good is different in a football locker room. And because a quarterback has so many things that he has to be incorporated in. He's a big part of the run game now with RPOs. He's a huge part of the passing game. He has to know the terminology and what it means to every single segment that he's saying it to and how he can benefit himself, and the better he knows it. And then there's such an age variety inside an NFL locker room that you have to make sure that you become a part of it. And, again, back in '85 when we're the youngest team in the league, and the role of the older guys in that locker room, how enormous their role was in the success of that team. So there's so many different elements that they all have to come together in order for Caleb and Rome and every one of these guys to benefit from it.
Tom, Jeff, really quick, if one thing that I noticed, too, which I really, really love, is that Keenan Allen, who's brand new, who's a veteran, and it's something that Tom just hit on, like at the Cubs game, at the Sky game the other day, Keenan Allen seems to be with Caleb Williams where he's going, and I love that. And I love that he's showing him the ropes, and that even though it's Caleb who's getting the love, and this is a future Hall of Famer, that there's Keenan Allen right by his side. And this seems to be something that's going to work out very, very well.
Yeah, I'll throw one more in there. That the idea that Ryan Poles, and we got to take a break, has all these former Chicago high school stars that are now back at home, not unlike Tom Thayer and the '85 Bears. But Cole Kmet, if Caleb has any concerns, questions, or as things go well or not so well from week to week throughout his career, or just whatever may be the case, they can give him a little history lesson on Chicago also. Hey, here's how it is here. This is the way it is. Here's how they're going to embrace you. Here's where they're going to get a little hot under the collar. And he'll get a real good impression of it because Cole Kmet, T.J. Edwards, all these guys grew up huge Bears fans. All right, let's take a break here on Bears Weekly with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak, Mark Silverman, and Jesse Rogers on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by IGS Energy. Jeff and Tom and Mark Silverman, along with Jesse Rogers, off the baseball beat into football, and it's never far from the front of your mind, isn't it? Right, Jess?
No, it's not. You're talking about football, right?
Yes.
No, and I'll give you the fan perspective because I was thinking about this last segment as you guys were talking. I went as a fan. I always do opening day, and I mean the Bears throw a couple great tailgates outside. A bunch of us paid for that. We had a blast outside, and you guys, revving. We had the radio on, revving us up. And then we go in there, and what a dud of an opening day that was. I mean that. And I'm just thinking, fast forward to this one, and the excitement's going to grow again, and I'm hoping it's different. But we've been more disappointed than satisfied in the last few years. So hopefully that'll change.
Who are we opening up against? Any guesses? What's the NFL and their magic machine gonna throw out there next Wednesday?
They won't repeat
Detroit Lions.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Tom, that's a good one.
Prime time?
Maybe.
I don't know. It could be a barn burner way to kick off the Sunday season by a noon start in Chicago of that division. And so I think it would be pretty interesting. The Bears should have beat Detroit twice last year. They beat them once. And if they did come out strong and beat Detroit at home, it would already start the conversation about what the future holds for the Chicago Bears. So hopefully we'll see it. And, there's no more emotionally attached coach right now that shows it than Dan Campbell. So there's a lot of stories to live up to.
Jeff, that's a really good one that a couple people have guessed or have theorized that it could be the opener. We know the Bears cannot open up against the Packers because that's the Friday night Brazil game against the Philadelphia Eagles, so they are off the table. There's a couple that I like. My guess was the Texans. Now, there's a couple of flaws in that. Is because they do play the Texans in that Canton game that I said. Would the league want them to play in the exhibition season and then really quick in the opener? I know a lot of starters don't play anyway, but I think it's an intriguing matchup between a second-year quarterback and the rookie quarterback, two wide receivers who are studs who just changed teams there. Two really good up-and-coming teams. Well, there's a rumor out there that the Texans could be the opener for the Chiefs. So, but I like that game. And then someone said this to me, Jeff. What about the Bears and Commanders? It is the last two Heisman Trophy winners in Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, and the number 1 and 2 picks going up against each other this year, and it's Caleb Williams returning to his hometown.
Okay, now that's very good. That's a very good one as well. Yeah, that's intriguing. I'm thinking they'll wait on the Houston one just because, hey, let Caleb get his experience in, and that is going to be some holiday game or something. And look how far he's come in year one. Look where the Bears are at, and look where the Texans are at. Because everybody's saying that it's low-hanging fruit, right, Tommy, that the Bears are poised to make a Houston Texans-type jump this season. I don't like those kind of comparisons. It's always what's happened last season.
Lean into it.
I can't.
You gotta lean into it.
I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying that's the easy answer all the time. Like what happened last season. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different situation. But go ahead,
listen,
Tommy.
That deal. It's like the Adrian Peterson of knee injuries. When knee injuries were so unrecoverable within a year and a half's time, and you could not contribute to your team. And then Adrian Peterson came around. He got a knee injury. Then the next year he goes for over 1,000 plus and one of the best runners in the NFL. So, listen, when C.J. Stroud put the quarterback effort on display that he did last year with the new head coach and the enormity of pressure on him when you consider Dak Prescott in Dallas and what the situation was with the Texans when they lost Watson. And now everybody's going to say, okay, if C.J. Stroud did it, any quarterback that's a rookie that gets drafted after him can do that as well. So I think that the C.J. Stroud pulled that engine cord on the quarterback position, letting people think if he did it, the next guy can do it.
And he threw for 4,000 plus yards.
Jeff, can I give a counter, though? Like, I understand what you guys are saying. The only difference is, while yes, it's the rookie quarterback comparison is, let's not forget the Houston Texans were 3-13-1, and then they went on this run last year. The Bears are coming in at 7-10, and were a really different team in the back half of the season. So they wouldn't be coming out of the blue like the Texans were a year ago. I think they're well ahead of where the Texans were a year ago. So my expectation for them to win 10 or 11 games is not as outlandish as predicting what the Texans did from 3 wins to this year.
Sorry, Sylvie, point and counterpoint, like that old show that used to be on Sundays.
I like it.
So you're saying you're saying 7 wins is you really think that's the catapult to success? Because you're saying 3-13 for the Texans now that the Bears won 7. Because 17 games is okay, and they lost 3 or 4 that they should have.
Right.
To me, if they would have won those 3 or 4 that they should have, then I think we'd really be talking about a special surgence from the year before. But when we walked out of there at the end of the season after a 7-win season, I think I was thinking, man, this team needs to make significant strides. When you look at what Green Bay is going through, what Detroit's going through, and so 7 games wasn't as exciting for me as it was some people.
And I'm glad you're not satisfied. That's good.
Yeah, that man's never going to be satisfied until we're hoisting the trophy. That's for sure. But I got to talk about this because, also a lot of folks are thinking the NFC North is now going to be arguably one of, if not the toughest division in football. Some people have put that out there. Maybe some of your guests have done the same, the experts. I don't know. But the Bears got to beat the Packers, and the Bears got to beat the Lions. And they got to take care of business against the Vikings. So that's a defensive team that has Brian Flores, and he's got a little more pieces to his puzzle that he likes to do his pressure defense. The Packers are on a climb again, young and beefed up their secondary, and a second year now with that offense that really surprised a lot of folks, and we know what Detroit's doing. So, we're projecting like playoffs and talk like this, but are you saying that the Lions and Packers are not playoff bound? Because are we going to have 3 teams in the division going to the playoffs?
Yeah,
that's a legitimate question.
I think this is a great point because I use the phrase fully formed, and when I talk about a lot of baseball teams, like the Dodgers are fully formed, the Phillies, the Braves, the Cubs are trying to be that fully formed team. The Lions and Packers are pretty fully formed. I'm no expert, but they look pretty fully. I mean, certainly the Lions and the Packers may have been. And the Bears are they fully formed? I don't think so. We might know more about 10 weeks into the season, but I think you guys would agree there are 2 more fully formed teams, and even the Vikings, if they didn't have a quarterback issue, might be more fully formed. So there are steps for the Bears to take that we don't know when they're going to take them necessarily.
Hey, Jesse, where the Bears need to take steps? It's in the crowd. The crowd can't sell their tickets to Detroit fans and Green Bay fans that we've seen over the last couple of years. Because throughout the amount of time we've been around the NFL, we've been to Detroit when it's more Bears fans than it is Detroit. And that's not the way anymore. And then you talk about Green Bay. It's still Green Bay fans that, cause the noise there. And then Minnesota with that inside stadium, if they're on a good kick and a good roll, they're also full of Vikings fans. So Bears fans, keep your tickets.
Amen.
He went all Embiid on everybody, right?
Hey, he did. I like it. He did so because I'm watching him on Zoom because that's how we verbalize here through Zoom. And he gets a little red faced. He gets a little things going.
It's a good point.
Yeah, he does. All right, let's take our second break here. This is Bears Weekly with Tom and Jeff and Mark Silverman and Jesse Rogers on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
Calling all Bears fans. You want unforgettable access to see the Bears play at Soldier Field this season? VIP official ticket packages available as soon as the schedule is released. The word is reportedly next Wednesday. Unlock access to exclusive ticket packages that may include entry to in-stadium hospitality lounges, pregame sideline credentials, and the Chicago City Pass. Visit ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755 for more info. Again, that's ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755 in honor of my man, Tom Thayer.
When that schedule comes on, we're not going to be suckered into go on Waddle and Sylvie show and having this big schedule prediction that came back to haunt us last year.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
We're going game by game.
I got to tell you, Sylvie, let's set the stage. A year ago, schedule comes out. A few days later, Tom and I do a video for the Bears website. We don't make predictions, but we give you the deal. And then you invite us. We had to go down to the studio, and there I am on State Street, a rare appearance. And you guys say, okay, we're playing the schedule game. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. So they shamed me into it, and it was fun. And I'll tell you, you guys had me rolling. Jesse, I was head to toe sweating. I'm not joking. I got so into it, and I was talking myself in and out of wins, wound up with 11, knowing full well in my heart that was not going to happen. But, as Tom indicated in our previous segment here on Bears Weekly, on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network, should have been 3 more wins, so I might have been only 1 off.
It's why the schedule game is fun.
It is fun.
Because you may want to say, I think the Bears are going to win 10 games. But when you do the exercise, you may find yourself mapping out 12 because you're like, well, there's no way they're going to Arizona and losing this.
Right.
So I've got this as a win, and I think they've got Detroit in a good position here because Detroit's coming off of their this and so like I've got to win here.
Any sentence that starts with "there's no way." ... Yes, there is a way. This is the NFL, right? There's no way.
Jesse, what happened was I kept trying to go back and erase my answers, and Sylvie says you got to stick to the exercise.
Yes.
There's no redo.
We keep these shows on tape. By the way,
and they stuck it on the window. I'm sure it's still sitting there.
I mentioned being the fan among the 4 of you here because I'm not working like you guys. I just want to go back to opening day. Do we think it could be at night because of obviously the Caleb Williams factor? What do you guys think?
I mean, it could be conceivably. They could want to put a marquee guy and hopefully a franchise that's taken major steps forward in the way they finish the season defensively and how explosive the offense could be. Maybe they will. That's the thing about it, Sylvie. You should go back and check your schedule from last year because no matter what we had in our schedules and our predictions. At the result after the Green Bay game to open the season, I was almost inconsolable. And so even if we had, and that was a game they are going to beat Green Bay. Mm-hmm. They got a new quarterback coming aboard, and I know this is the year for the Bears with Justin and everything. And then it just failed to work out that way, and it was, one of the more disappointing days of the year for me, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, 38-20, and I think we say it every year, guys. Like I said it before the end of the year Packer game. Like this is the one where it turns. Like you can knock the Packers out of the postseason. You can end the season with a 3-game winning streak. And so I think we're going to say it this year with the improvements, with the new quarterback. Time to end the 10-game losing streak. Time to start a new way against the Green Bay Packers. So
the only problem is back then we were doubting Jordan Love a little bit. We didn't know what he was going to be.
Right.
Now, as I mentioned before, kind of using that fully formed phrase, he's a tough nut. He's a tough cookie to crack there.
Yeah,
but Jeff. So what would Montez Sweat? He had a total of 12 sacks last year between the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears. But so what I guess what the bigger thing was what I'm saying, if he has that combination, that double-digit total of sacks by one guy, which the Bears have been missing for so long, that there's other guys that are going to you have access to sacks, whether it's blitzing, whether it's the talented linebacker rushers that the Bears have. Hopefully one of the other guys on the defensive line develops into an honest threat. So, that's a key ingredient, too. And if you can steal possessions away from your opponent and get them off the field on third down, create more opportunities for your offense. But, Montez Sweat said it in the offseason that they cannot lose to Green Bay anymore, and I'm glad he said it, but it's all about his production.
12.5 sacks. Hey, I want to talk about a different kind of production because I went and looked this up the other day. So what's the big thing that have hurt the Bears in recent vintage here? And it's like the struggle of struggles. It's to score points, correct? Even in victory. And so do you see any potential for this team to hit their heads on scoring 400 points? Because 9 teams did last season, so it's not simple by no means. And those are, most of those are playoff teams. But the Bears had 445 points in 2013. They had 421 in 2018, and they had 427 in their Super Bowl year in 2006. That's it since 2000. That's it. So that's too infrequent and too many years in between. Is the offense set up right now? And I'll go around the horn. We'll start with you, Tommy. If everything goes well, and another thing is, as we pass our condolences to the Avellini family on the death of Bob Avellini, the only Bears quarterback to start every game in consecutive seasons in the modern era. He started 14 and 76 and 16. So, are we going to have, Jay Cutler's first season with the Bears, he was 16 for 16, but then that was it. So not many 16-game starters at quarterback in Bears. So can he play a full season? Can he learn as we go? Can the offense thrive when it needs to in clutch key leverage situations as the season grows and success grows, and get to a point where we are threatening teams with our offense?
Yeah, I mean, if you get these weapons to stay healthy as in terms of the wide receiver position, if they have the input from the 2 tight ends, Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet, in different short yardage, red zone types of scenarios that will face them, if you continue to have the running game contribute to the offense that it has over the last couple of years, you're going to be even more explosive downfield. The caveat is Caleb Williams, he can start 17 games. Tell me how many games the offensive line is going to start together of those 17. Because when you talk about Nate Davis not participating in training camp, Tevin Jenkins getting hurt at the end of training camp, the situation they went through at the center position in sort of its inefficiencies, and Braxton Jones missed some time. If they can go throughout training camp and complement and learn the cadence and understand the whole way the quarterback works, and the quarterback can understand how the offensive line works. I think as much as you want to talk about Keenan and DJ and Rome and the other guys, it's as much about the offensive line as it is Caleb.
It's interesting. You mentioned 400 points, 17 games. That's like a team total of 23.5 per game.
It's exactly that.
For bettors out there, 23.5 is kind of like a number when it comes to a team total for a team. And this is the way I think of it, Jeff. Like 21 is the floor. They got to be 21. Like that's a given. Has to be 21. But that extra field goal is the difference maker. Can they average 24 a game? If you start averaging about 24 a game, you're going to start winning a bunch of games, right?
Yeah,
but that's the question.
It doesn't seem too insurmountable,
right?
When you put it like that,
right? 21 to 20, because I think 21's got to be the floor with this kind of talent. Maybe I'm wrong. So, but 21 to 24 doesn't sound like much, but it is. It is. So I want to believe the answer is yes. Team total over 23.5 for the season, but I don't know. I just don't know because there's so much new on offense, especially with the quarterback.
I love what Thayer said, and I think it starts up front. I think you get all the toys and you get all the you talk about the quarterback, you talk about all the skill position. They're so important. We know that. Those are the guys who are going to score, and it's up to Caleb to distribute the ball. And then Shane Waldron comes into it, what we mentioned. But I think the line is going to play a huge role in all of this. And then to get within the numbers, Jeff, on what Jesse was just saying, you covered Ron Harper, right? You remember Harp.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Harper used to say this. To average 20 points in the NBA, it's not as hard as you think it is. You score 5 points a quarter. How hard is it to score 5 points a quarter?
Wow.
20,
wow.
Right? I mean, 5 points a quarter. It's
right.
23.5 points a game, Jeff. That's 6 points a quarter.
Right.
And with this defense, who should score too, should get you good field position. Now they drafted Torrey Taylor. You're flipping the field. You're getting good field position. This team better score 400 points per season for the season. Yeah, and because and then the years that you mentioned, how many years were those that we didn't play 17 games? I think
Correct.
most of
All
those
of
years were
all of them.
six.
Yeah, all of them.
Those
all
were
of them.
16 games. So you're getting an extra game now.
That's a good point.
And 06, 08, and 18 were defensive touchdowns. They took the ball away, which this team
Take it
showed
away.
it's capable of. So, yeah, that's what has me excited when you put it all in a pot. The shorter fields, potentially, taking the ball away if they continue to thrive defensively, and this offense has a lot of spark plugs on it. We got to take a break. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
And this segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff and Tom, Jesse Rogers, and Mark Silverman from the Watto and Sylvie Show as we hijack an hour of their Watto and Sylvie extravaganza. Hey, one more thing on the point thing. So all the 9 teams that scored 400 or more all made the playoffs. Oh, no, wait, with the exception of the Saints. Saints didn't make the playoffs, so that's 8 of them. But Dallas scored 509, Miami 496, San Francisco 491, Baltimore 483, and Detroit 461. So, I mean, by no means does this mean that's an automatic to get to the playoffs, but I just want to see the Bears score more points.
Yes.
They have had problems scoring points. Kansas City averaged 21-8 a game and was 15th in the league, scoring their 371, and they're champions a second consecutive time. So, that's the last thing I'll say about that.
I think if Sylvie's taking phone calls about the defense halftime, I think you'd be happy about that. You know what I mean? Like, we have never come out of a season where it's 30 points a game, even if they went 7 and 10. So what? Like we just don't see great offense around here. So let the defense be the focus. If the offense can be great, that's fine with me.
You know, so Jeff and I did a podcast the other day with Mark Carrier, and here's a guy that came in 10 interceptions his rookie year, was defensive rookie of the year, and he talked, and we are kind of comparing notes about the speed of the game initially. And I think the speed of the game affects offensive linemen, it affects quarterbacks, and it affects defensive backs the most. And so, Caleb is going to have those growing pains to go through. Even though you have multiple weapons, you got to be able to understand, accuracy is complemented by speed, and the windows of opportunities are different in the NFL. And so I think when they go through training camp, they're going to have elevated speeds in preparation at training camp, because there is a different speed of preseason to the first game of regular season, and then so on through the season. So I think if we're talking about an offense that's going to be able to use all of its assets and is going to be able to score over that 23-point threshold per game, it's going to be because Caleb is already understanding the speed of the game requirements. And, as an offensive lineman practicing against the 85 Bears, it took a couple weeks. And I didn't know if you were able to accomplish that. However, that is going to be some of the growing processes that we watch Caleb go through in practice, because you think of the Bears' defensive backfield, they're experienced now. And when you think of the beginning of the year last year with Tariq Stevenson, he was going through a little bit of speed of the game, growing pains. And then at the end of the season, he was playing as well as anybody.
I'm interested, and we talked about this earlier on the Waddle and Sylvie show, to hear from Shane Waldron this weekend, too. I really want to hear how he plans to put all these parts together. He's got a big task, really, because he's got a lot of these skill position players. Not only are there a lot of people to keep happy, but there are a lot of new people to put into this offense. So DJ Moore is here, but he's got to learn the offense. I heard you guys interview him on draft night and hear him talk about the differences between the languages and how hard it is to learn the offense, and he thought it was not so hard.
Right, he said it was simpler.
Yeah. And then well, you got DeAndre Swift, who's got to get in here. You've got another new tight end who's got to get in here. You've got a couple of new wide receivers who's got to get in here. You've got to develop a new quarterback. So I think the task is pretty big for an offensive coordinator who is starting with a brand new team.
Tom, who gets lost in the shuffle in a situation like this? They're all those weapons he just rattled off are all talented. They've all had the ball in their hands a big amount in their respective careers where they've been before. Is there a risk that somebody gets, lost in the shuffle a little bit?
Well, the thing about it is about the installation of the offense from the first day of rookie minicamp out through OTAs and in the training camp. What you're basically doing is you're taking and you're thinking about all the weapons you have at your disposal while you're installing the offense. And then repetitiously you run these plays a number of times to get everybody comfortable. And then week 1 of the regular season, you start studying tape and you say, okay, where is our opponent's deficiencies? Is there deficiencies at the slot coverage? Is there deficiency at the number 2 corner? Do they have linebackers that can't cover? And I think that's going to be the coolest thing about this offense, Caleb and Shane and Chris Morgan, is week in and week out going to the evaluation drawing board and get the reports that their scouting department has given to them and say, okay, when we break down the analytics and we study tape, this guy can't play, or this segment of their team it can't work against the Bears offense. So I think that I think all of us are going to have to study the Bears more this year according to what their opponents are going to allow them to be and allow them to do.
Tom, I have a question for you because I'm curious about the relationship from its inception here between Waldron and Caleb Williams. Have you seen, maybe this is a naive question, have you seen quarterbacks and offensive coordinators kind of not bond as things go, like even from the beginning, like they're just not on the same page and it just doesn't work because of that? Like, what's that relationship like and what should it look like?
Well, there are examples of that throughout the NFL history, but, NFL offensive coordinators probably become more aware of it when they're sitting in meetings with these guys and they're asking them to respond to either new installation or a play that they've ran 100 times already. And then if they don't come back with an answer in a timely fashion, you kind of understand going, look, maybe I need to put more of a learning emphasis for this guy to grow. Mm-hmm. And but Caleb has got a lot of experience in offenses that he's been able to play at in college. He's been able to go from one college to another and have success. He it seems like he's got learns football well in the classroom, but it's the same thing as an offensive line. You can't hesitate, you can't think. So evaluation of a quarterback and how that relationship's going to develop comes from the classroom as much as it does the practice field.
Well, we're going to hear from Caleb Williams tomorrow, Roma Dunze, coaches the next 2 days, Friday and Saturday up at Hallis Hall. I know Sylvie will be there. Mm-hmm. I think Tommy Watt will be back in town. He'll be there. And Sylvie, when we used to work the beat together, when we were, reporters and having some fun watching things, he used to kick my tail, Jesse. I'll tell you that right now. He had his eyes on it. How did you see that? When did you see that? I didn't see that. And, and he got the special interview that I didn't get. He was always kicking my rear end anyway. It is true. However, his big thing, Tom and Jesse, was sight seen. So what are you looking for tomorrow when you're out there watching practice, hopefully in non-rain conditions over there at Hallis Hall? What sights are you going to be looking to see?
I am going to be looking to see everything from the quarterback. Everything. Every action. Every move that he makes. How he reacts with all of his teammates. Not just the throws, because I think everyone wants to see the throws. Are they accurate? I want to see the interaction. That's what I want to see. Like everyone said, is he this? Is he that? I want to see how he's working with his peers. These are the rookies. So I think that's going to be very, very important. But, of course, you want to see Roma Dunze. You also want to see who sticks out because there's always, Jeff, someone that you don't expect to stick out in these things that you have no clue that will. Like Tyson Bagent was not on anyone's radar a year ago. There will be someone who is not on your radar tomorrow that will make this football team. Jack Sanborn wasn't on anybody's radar 2 years ago. John Jackson is his best friend. He played at USC a year ago. I think he went to Nevada He's getting the invite, so he will be there. So just look, keep your eyes open for anything. And if you're just fixated on one thing, you will miss something that you're probably supposed to see.
Well, I have a long drive tomorrow. So what I want to hear about, because I am driving to Iowa City to pick up my daughter from school, and she tells me this kid was the second biggest celebrity on campus after you know.
You're looking for punting.
And she wasn't kidding. Tory Taylor was like a fan favorite. I mean, it was in a sarcastic way in a lot of ways because Iowa couldn't score. I want to hear about Tory Taylor's punts tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Hey,
Jeff?
Sylvie, you know what? One thing that's kind of neat when you go to practice, and so if you say you're watching offense and defensive line 101s, or you're watching 7-on-7 and you're watching the defensive backs rather than the receivers, or these different types of drills. Take one whole drill and only watch feet. Don't watch the upper body, because that's going to tell you a lot more if they have the athleticism to live up to their job requirements. If you're watching an offensive lineman and he backs up in his second step, he gets tripped up or he gets his feet too wide, or a cornerback when he tries to make the exchange in coverage, if he can't make it. And I think it's always neat to follow a position and watch the feet.
It's a great
He'll
tip.
be watching Theo Benedette, the offensive tackle from British Columbia. 6'7", 295, outstanding athlete. He paired up with Giovanni Manu, the fourth-round pick of Detroit. They called him Gio and Theo over there in University of British. They're both 6'7", and great athletes. The Tongan and Theo Benedette, they're good friends. We'll keep an eye on that. I'll be interested to see all of it, and it's always a lot of fun. Hey, we appreciate it, guys. Thanks for letting us barge into your night. It was a lot of fun.
Great talking
It was
to
a
you
lot
guys.
of fun.
You guys are always welcome.
The best.
Appreciate it,
See you guys.
Jesse. Keep doing a great job as you do on the baseball beat for Tom Thayer, Mark Silverman, and Jesse Rogers. Thanks to everybody, our producers. And that'll do it for us. We'll report from Bears rookie camp tomorrow, a memorable one with Caleb Williams, the number one pick right there. White Sox baseball coming up against the Guardians next. Connor McKnight, take it away. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Apple Podcasts, Bet Rivers, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite.